The sun slowly set over the vast fields of the Miami countryside, tinting the sky orange and gold. The cicadas sang, and the air smelled fresh of wet earth after a brief summer rain. Miguel Alvarez, a humble and hard-working farmer, was wrapping up another day of service. With his boots covered in dust and his straw hat already worn by time, he was walking back home when he spotted something unusual on the dirt road that cut through his property. A black pickup truck stuck in the mud. Intrigued, Miguel approached, slowly. Inside the vehicle, a man wearing sportswear, a low cap and sunglasses looked frustrated, trying unsuccessfully to get the car to move. The farmer scratched his head, realizing that the stranger was clearly not used to country roads. "Dulas, you need help, buddy?" Miguel asked, resting his hands on his hips. The man raised his head, visibly relieved to see someone there. "Yes, I think I underestimated this road," he said, with a slight Argentine accent. Miguel Soriu singing. "This here turns into a swamp when it rains, but nothing that we can't solve." Without hesitation, he took a rope and tied it to the vehicle's bumper. He climbed into his old tractor and, with experience, pulled the truck out of the quagmire. The engine roared, and finally the car was back on the solid road. The traveler got out of the vehicle and shook Miguel's calloused hand. "Thank you very much." "How much do I owe you for this?" the farmer laughed. "Should you? He doesn't owe me anything. Here in the countryside we help each other." The man was surprised. He was used to a world where everything had a price, where his name carried weight, and where any help always came with an interest behind it. But that simple man, with sunburned skin and an honest smile, just helped without expecting anything. In return, "I don't even know what to say." "You don't need to say anything. But since night is coming and this road is not safe to drive now, why don't you rest a little at home? My wife makes the best coffee you'll ever have." The stranger hesitated for a moment but then smiled. "I accept." And so, not knowing who was really in front of him, Miguel took the visitor to his home, where a simple act of kindness would become the beginning of a story that would change his life forever. Miguel's house was simple but welcoming. Built with rustic wood, it exuded that comforting smell of freshly brewed coffee and homemade bread coming out of the oven. The yellowish light of the dining room gave an even cozier tone to the environment. Sitting at the table, the visitor looked around, taking in the small details of rural life: an old radio playing soothing country music, a dog dozing near the door, and the rhythmic rocking of the rocking chair where Miguel's wife, Dona Rosa, rested while knitting. "Take it, boy. I know that a strong coffee solves anything," said Mrs. Rosa, placing a steaming cup in front of the guest. He smiled gratefully and held the cup with both hands. His eyes seemed to carry a fatigue that went beyond the trip or the incident on the road. There was something else there, something that Miguel noticed but preferred not to ask. "So where do you come from?" Miguel asked, starting a conversation. The man hesitated for a moment before answering. "By far. I travel a lot. But sometimes all I want is a quiet place, no noise, no one recognizing me." Miguel nodded, understanding that feeling. This is a good place for that. There is only the singing of birds and the stories of the people of the countryside. The visitor smiled slightly and took a sip of his coffee. For a moment, he felt a rare relief. He didn't have to hide. He didn't have to put on a social mask. There, he was not treated as a celebrity, but as an ordinary man who just needed help and rest. As they talked, Miguel realized that the man's Argentine accent was very familiar, but he did not insist on asking who he was. Deep down, it didn't matter. It was just a traveler in need of a little hospitality, and for Michael, that was enough. Outside, night was already falling, and the stars were beginning to shine in the clear sky of the countryside. The visitor picked up the phone and, in a low voice, said to someone on the other end of the line, "I'm fine. Nobody recognized me. Only a very good farmer who helped me. I'll rest a little and then I'll continue my journey." On the other end, the person responded quickly, looking relieved. "Got it, Leo. I know if something is needed, warn." He hung up, took a deep breath, and looked at Miguel. who was now cutting slices of homemade cake and putting them on the table. "I hope you're hungry. Rosa always makes too much cake," joked Miguel. The man laughed, relaxed. It had been a long time since he felt this way. That night, Lionel Messi, one of the greatest players in the history of football, slept peacefully in the home of a man who had no idea who he was. And perhaps that was the best part of his trip. The sun was already shining brightly when Miguel left the house the next morning. With his straw hat shielding his face from the heat, he walked to the old barn to feed the animals. In the distance, he saw the visitor's black truck parked on the side of the road, ready to continue its journey. Messi, or rather Leo, as he introduced himself, was already standing, leaning against the vehicle, observing the tranquil landscape of the farm. He looked hesitant, as if something inside him said this place was different. When Miguel approached, Messi reached out and squeezed the farmer's hand firmly. "Thank you for everything, Miguel. I will never forget his hospitality." "You're welcome, boy. Come back whenever you want. This road always has a place for those who need rest." Messi smiled, got into the truck and, with one last wave, set off on the dirt road. Miguel stood there watching the dust rise as the car drove away. For him, that was just another good story to tell on the porch while having coffee with the neighbors. But 2 nights later, everything changed. Miguel was sitting on the couch, relaxing after a long day at work, when he heard his wife's scream of astonishment coming from the kitchen. "Michael, come see it now." He ran to the living room and found Mrs. Rosa pointing to the cell phone screen, her eyes wide. On the screen, a post on Instagram showed a photo of the entrance to Miguel's farm, with his house in the background. The caption was short but powerful. "Thank you for your hospitality, Miguel. Humble people make the difference. See you soon." And the name at the top of the post was unmistakable: Lionel Messi. The farmer felt the ground disappear under his feet. "What?" He widened his eyes, trying to process. The post already had millions of likes and thousands of comments. Fans around. The world praised Messi for valuing simple people, and praised Miguel for his humility. Within minutes, the farm's phone began to vibrate non-stop. Messages from friends, neighbors, and even reporters filled his cell phone. A friend sent a link to an article. Florida farmer unknowingly helps Messi and goes viral on social media. That night, Miguel couldn't sleep. The story had already slipped out of his control. Journalists wanted interviews. Neighbors wanted to know more. And out of nowhere, his farm, a simple and forgotten place in the middle of nowhere, was in the world's attention. But in the midst of all the confusion, a question hammered in Miguel's head. Why would Messi post something like that? The answer would come very soon, and it would change his life forever. Miguel's farm, once a quiet haven, was now the center of attention. Since Lionel Messi made the post on his Instagram, the quiet property in the countryside near Miami has become a point of curiosity for journalists, fans, and onlookers. But while the world tried to turn that moment into a great spectacle, Miguel remained the same. For him, nothing had changed. He still woke up before sunrise, fed his animals, repaired fences, and took care of the crops. The only difference was that he now received unexpected visitors. Some journalists insisted on interviewing him, and some fans showed up just to take pictures in the same place where Messi had been. What made the story go viral was not just Messi's name, but the contrast between the two worlds. On the one hand, the simple and hard-working life of a farmer who only did what he considered right. On the other, that of one of the greatest athletes in the world, accustomed to the spotlight, fame, and fortune. The internet was fascinated by Miguel's humility. Comments flooded social networks. "This farmer represents all that is good in the world. He helped without asking for anything in return." Messi found peace on Miguel's farm. This shows that deep down, everyone needs a simple place to feel at home. Stories like this restore my faith in humanity. The most interesting thing was that Miguel was not trying to get attention. He didn't even have social networks. For him, his life went on as usual, taking care of the land, his family, and the animals. But it was exactly this authenticity that made the story grow even more. While the cameras tried to capture images of the farm, Miguel, oblivious to all the commotion, walked calmly through the fields, holding a bucket of feed for the chickens. For him, true wealth has never been in money or fame. It was always there, in the earth beneath her feet, in the smell of rain before the harvest, and in the silence of the night under a starry sky. But what Miguel didn't know was that Messi hadn't finished his story with him yet. Something much bigger was coming. Something that would change not only the life of the farmer, but of his entire community. The days passed, and life on Miguel's farm continued its simple routine, despite the frenzy that Lionel Messi's unexpected visit had caused. The farmer never sought fame, but she found him anyway. And unbeknownst to him, that small gesture of kindness was about to transform not only his life, but also that of his entire community. On an ordinary afternoon, Miguel was repairing a fence when he heard the phone ring. He wiped his hands on his jeans and answered, not knowing that that call would change everything. "Miguel, this is Matias from Messi's team. Leo wants to talk to you." The farmer frowned, confused. Before he could answer, the Argentine's familiar voice came from the other end of the line. "Michael, my friend. How are you?" "Well, boy, I should ask that. Since you posted that photo, my life has turned upside down." Miguel laughed, although he was still surprised by the call. Messi also laughed on the other end of the line. "I imagine. But listen, I've been thinking. You helped me without expecting anything in return, and it stuck with me. I want to give back." Miguel frowned, uncomfortable. "Well, Leo, you don't need that. You've already thanked me, and that's enough. I know, but I want to do something bigger. I want to help you and your community. I want to invest in your farm and transform this place into a center that benefits the residents of the region. Something that leaves a legacy." Miguel was silent. He had never thought of anything like this. His farm was his life, but what if it could be more than that? And what would that look like exactly? Miguel asked, still trying to understand. Messi explained his plan. He wanted to help modernize Miguel's farm, bring in new equipment and invest in local production. But more than that, he wanted to turn part of the property into a community center, where young people could learn about sustainable agriculture, livestock, and even sports, a space where residents could meet, exchange knowledge, and find new opportunities. The farmer felt a lump in his throat. For years, he has seen many young people in the region abandon the countryside due to lack of opportunities. But now, he had a chance to change that. "Michael, I don't want you to see this as charity. I want him to see it as an investment in the future of his community," Messi insisted. The farmer's silence was interrupted by the sound of the wind shaking the surrounding trees. He looked at his land, at the fields his father and grandfather had cultivated before him, and realized that this was his chance to give back all that the land had already given him. He took a deep breath and, with a sincere smile, replied, "If it's to help my people, then I'll take it." On the other end of the line, Messi smiled. "Then it's agreed. This is just the beginning, my friend." And so what started as a simple act of kindness became something much bigger. Messi wasn't just helping a man. He was helping to build a legacy that would change the lives of an entire community. Miguel never imagined that a simple act of kindness would change his life. For him, helping a traveler in trouble was just the right thing to do. He didn't ask for anything in return. He didn't expect recognition, and much less did. He imagined that that man was Lionel Messi, one of the greatest idols in world football. But life has a curious way of surprising us. Miguel's gesture echoed far beyond the confines of his farm, inspiring millions of people around the world. He showed that, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a humble farmer or a world celebrity. It's the way we treat others that really counts. And Messi, even with all his fame and fortune, proved that gratitude and humility are non-negotiable values. He could have simply gone on his way and kept that experience to himself, but he chose to give back in a way that left a lasting impact. He not only helped Miguel, but an entire community that now has new opportunities for growth. The story of Miguel and Messi teaches us that true greatness is in small gestures. Genuine kindness can open doors we never imagined. Sometimes a simple act of helping someone can set off a chain of life-changing change. Therefore, never underestimate the power of a good deed. You never know who might be on the other side, and how a simple moment of generosity can become an extraordinary chapter in your own story. If this story inspired you, leave your like, comment what you think, and subscribe to the channel. Your support motivates us to continue bringing you exciting and inspiring stories. See you in the next video.